Well, hello, beautiful people. It's Marie Forleo, and you are watching a live episode of MarieTV, the place to be to create a business and life you love. And I'm so excited to be with you today. It's a beautiful day in January. It's kind of chilly. We are in the midst of welcoming a new class to our program that's called Time Genius. So I have been talking about time and taking questions about things like overwhelm and burnout and feeling stretched too thin. And we had asked many of you, if you have any questions for me, to let me know. And so I've been reading through these questions and they are fantastic. Thank you so much for everything that you've submitted. So today we're going to keep it real. We're going to talk a little bit about time stress, and we're going to talk about some of the things that you can do for 2022 to live in more joy and with more spaciousness and less stress and overwhelm and burnout than you could ever imagine. And I've taken this journey myself. And I was actually just talking a little bit ago to our Time Genius mentors. We have an incredible cadre of mentor coaches who join us for this program. I was also talking to our team. And, the first time we had done Time Genius was last year in the fall. And creating this program in and of itself helped me so much solidify things that I had been gnawing around and noodling on for years. But it really helped me solidify it on such a deeper level and challenge myself to go even further with the things that I knew and that I had already practiced. And now it's been almost a year since I started creating the program, and I honestly feel like a new human being. Just this morning, I was sitting on my couch with Josh. It was super early. I love waking up super early. I now wake up without an alarm, don't need an alarm because my body is so well rested, because I have eliminated virtually all of the toxic stress that I used to carry around. I didn't even know I had. And we had done our meditation already. And so we're sitting on our couch and we're having our little drinks in the morning. And I was just hanging out there. And for a moment, I had this realization of how different that experience was for me. And here's what I mean. I remember so many parts of my life feeling so obsessive about time and whether or not I was using every minute effectively and where was I going next, and trying to be hyper vigilant and control everything and just cram everything in to be the most productive I could possibly be because I have so many ideas and I'm so ambitious, and then I'm freaking exhausted. And this morning, there was such a level of peace in my heart and spaciousness. And I had already gotten so much done. And there was this long expanse ahead of me, including getting to be with you live today. And I was like, my goodness, why didn't I start living this way earlier? And, one of the most miraculous things that has come out of this Time Genius experience for me is we have like over 600 pages of success stories from our first inaugural class. And I read the same things again and again and again. People saying, oh my gosh, I wish I had this 10 years ago. Oh my gosh, I wish I had this 20 years ago. I didn't know life could be this great. How can I be getting so much done and have so much more free time and feel so much less stressed than ever before? So if you're tuning in today and you find yourself at that place of burnout and feeling like your brain is all over the place and being so exhausted, or maybe you're partially like I was, like really loving what you do, but being so utterly burned out, you're like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Like, where is my passion? I know that I have a lot to give, but I just can't do it. There's a gajillion things pulling on me, and I just don't have the energy anymore to do what I really want to do. So if any of that sounds like you are in the right place. I'm going to tackle some great questions that have come in, and we might even do some live questions. We'll see. Speaking of that, if you have a live question and you want to pop on with your camera and with your microphone, I believe on this nice little Zoom interface, you can press the raise hand function. And there's also a little Q&A box, right? And you can let Team Forleo know in the back end what your question might be. And if we have time, if it's a place that we go, some of you might be able to pop on live, not making any promises, that could happen, but do put the questions in there so we can know what's happening with y'all while I'm just going through some of these great pre-submitted questions. But again, little note, if you are going to come on, make sure that you've got your camera ready and your microphone so that we can all see you and hear you, and we can have a great experience. So this question I wanted to tackle, it's from Laura. And Laura says, "Hi, Marie. I've recently been diagnosed with ADHD. It's a real struggle every single day. However, I've chosen not to take medication for it for now. I'd love to hear about your ADHD journey and what you do to manage your symptoms. If you'd rather not share this info, I totally understand." Are you kidding me? I'm happy to share. So, yeah, I remember in my kind of late teens and early 20s, not understanding why my brain was going in so many different directions. And it just felt very different than everyone else's. And it wasn't until my mid 20s that I went to one of the top ADHD doctors actually in the world, certainly in the United States, and was diagnosed. And one of the best things that happened to me during that session was he says, "You have the gift." I was like, "What? What do you mean I have the gift?" He's like, "You have the gift of ADHD. That means you have a very, very, very special and unique brain." And so the whole framing around it for me was that it was a gift and that I had these superpowers, and that through really basic, and this was for me, this was my own experience. So other people have different experiences, but through my own practices, especially, again, this is for me, of meditation, exercise, and then making sure I'm fueling my body with foods and nutrients that really work for me, that that was going to be my pathway to really using my gifts to the best of their ability, including the gifts in my brain. And so I talk about this a lot in Time Genius because, I wasn't managing my gifts very well in the early days, and I've just gotten better and better over time. But part of why I wanted to create Time Genius is because I know there are so many out there like us, Laura, like you and I, who don't have typical brains, if you want to call it that way. And so a lot of the things that we talk about in the program itself are around giving yourself the support structures that you need. It may be different than mine. You want to find out what works for you, and really making those pillars of your day-to-day life. So one of my biggest pillars, and I think it's, I've talked about this a lot on the show, but I don't think we can ever hear it enough, because for whatever reason, so many of us as human beings, we kind of don't want to look at the basics, or we fall off doing the basics and we think it's going to be some other kind of shiny object out there, or a special elixir, or, who knows, something that we can get from the outside, but it's really so much of what we have in the inside that can heal us. That's been my experience. So exercise and movement and meditation. I'll tell you, there was a point for a very long time in my life where about 20 minutes of meditation in the morning was enough. At this point in my life, I'm up to like 45, almost an hour a day. And I know I'm not saying that you have to do that. I'm just being transparent because you asked me, so I'm answering. I actually find that the more time I spend in meditation, the more time I have. It is like this incredibly delicious paradox. The more still I get, the more present I get, the more I detach from the external world and feeling like I'm on a hamster wheel. It's as though things simplify. I'm able to focus so much more effectively. I work much faster, and I have much more room psychologically, mentally, creatively, and emotionally. It feels like problems get solved almost on a subconscious level, or on another plane that I don't even have to push or force. So I would encourage you, Laura, to look at this diagnosis as a gift. It means you have a very special brain, and then approach it like a creative, curious scientist. You might even look back into your past history and say, are there times in my life where I've felt really joyful and effective? Were there certain things that were in place? Are there certain times of the day I was waking up? Was there a certain type of nutrients and food I was eating? What are some of the patterns, if you can recognize them, that you can start to take notes on? That's what I did. And I have journals that have lasted me, probably now over decades. And I actually leave notes to myself, especially towards the end of the year, when I review everything that I've learned and everything that I've experienced and the lessons that I want to take forth. to the next year. And there are certain habits, there are certain structures, there are certain ways of eating and not eating that really work for my body. And the more that I cement those lessons in and love myself enough to live into those structures, the more I find that not only does my brain love it, my body loves it, but also my soul loves it. And it's been years since I've had the experience of feeling like, oh my gosh, my brain is so out of control. And it's from a lot of the stuff that we just talked about. And also too, if you're open to it, I highly suggest you join us for Time Genius. I actually want to read you a story from Dr. Grewal, who's a psychiatrist herself who also has ADHD. So I'm just going to read you her words as some support. She says, as a psychiatrist with ADHD who helps people with ADHD, I feel like I've just read about everything that exists on time management. When I saw Marie made Time Genius, I knew I wanted to do it because I love her other programs, even though I wasn't sure it would have any new information, but it does. And more importantly, it is a paradigm shift. I feel clearer and lighter now that I know what doesn't require my attention. I'm making time for exercise. I've drastically reduced distractions from my phone buzzing and getting endless alerts, and I'm much less conflicted about saying no. Time Genius is a system that's inspiring because it's flexible and respectful of individuality and comes from a place of genuine compassion and personal experience. A little goes a long way in making meaningful change. Even if you apply 10% of what you learn to your life, it will be worth it. Dr. Rajan Agriwal. So I just wanted to share that with you, Laura. And for anyone listening, if you want to know more about the program or you want to come join us, it closes this Thursday night at 7 p.m. and you can go to jointimegenius.com/enroll and you can learn more about it and come in. So that was the first question. So if you are someone out there who has a different type of brain, perhaps than everyone else, just know that you can absolutely thrive with that. And there may be many different structures and different things that you include in your life to support yourself in having that, but it is 100% possible. Okay, question number 2. This was another good one. So this question comes from Anna, and she says, hey, Marie, I'd love to know how you organize your life around what's most important to you. What does that look like for you? I would love to know. Thank you so much. So we also asked a few more questions when we asked folks to submit their questions. And one of the things I want to share about what Anna says, we asked people, what's really their focus for this year. And Anna says, I still struggle to identify and keep what matters most to me from getting buried in the day-to-day clutter and to-dos. How do you stay organized around what matters most? Loved ones, work, health, blah, 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 blah. How do you minimize the stressful experiences associated with running out of time and space? So a couple of things. One, Miss Anna, I think that your question is so important because what I've seen over the decades and what I've noticed myself from my own experience is that no one really helps us figure out how to decide what matters most to us, not for all of our life, but at this stage and season of our life. That's the distinction I think that most people miss. What was most important to me when I was in my early 20s was very different than my mid 20s, was very different than my later 20s, which was very different than my 30s and my mid 30s and my late 30s. You get what I'm saying? And I think it's so important for us to let go of kind of our past and even let go of our future and say, okay, what is the stage and season of my life right now? And what really does matter most? So to put this into some context, late in 2020, if you've been watching my show and paying attention to my emails, you know about this. I had received this diagnosis. I had this grapefruit-sized tumor growing on the outside of my uterus, and there was all these other tumors, and it was really scary. It was in the midst of the pandemic, before we had access to vaccines and all kinds of understanding and stuff like that. And I just remember that at that particular time, I had a whole big list of to-dos, things that were really important for my professional life and my career, things that were important in my personal life, things that I wanted to get done. And the moment that diagnosis came through and I learned that I had to have an urgent hysterectomy, it was like, record scratch. This stage and season of my life is no longer about the things I thought it was going to be about. Now it needs to be about getting this particular surgery and healing, and everything else, bye-bye. So I think one of the things that is most important in terms of answering your question is being really honest with yourself about what is most important to you at this stage and season of your life. Is it something to do with your career? Does it have to do with your health? Does it have to do with a particular relationship or relationships? Does it have to do with your finances? I don't know, but you do. And I think the more honest you can be that everything cannot be equally important. That's one of the biggest lies that gets us in trouble because everything is not equally important. There needs to be something that's primary at all times. And that doesn't mean the other things don't matter, but you have to be able to prioritize so that you're not living in a state of feeling that you should be equally juggling 7 or 8 different balls at once and they're all of equal importance. That's what makes people kind of cuckoo and drives them into massive burnout, exhaustion, feeling like crap, feeling inadequate, feeling like they never have enough time and they're not doing it right. Anna, I hope you're going to join us for Time Genius because helping people get clear on this is probably one of my life's greatest gifts. And we have an entire module devoted to helping you get crystal clear on what truly is most important to you at this stage in your season of your life. And then once you have that clarity, being able to put time first in your day for what really matters most is 99.9% of it. And again, we teach you how to do this very tactically. It doesn't matter whether you've got young kids running around. It doesn't matter whether you're running a business, you're an employee. We've got all that figured out for you and can give you those structures. But I think that for me, I always decide at the top of the year what really is most important for me at this stage and season of my life. Then I begin to calendar it out. Then I just start living into that. And if something happens that's unexpected, which does, we can always expect that in life, then it's about taking a step back and reassessing and saying, okay, these were my original plans. This is the new thing that popped up. This now must become most important. Again, because in my case, it was my health. And for many of us, if we don't have our health, we don't have anything else. And then it's about building structure into your days and loving yourself enough to show up for you rather than running the same habitual programs that you might have done in the past that were all about being in this state of constant stress, feeling scattered and feeling like you have to take care of everyone else and everything else first. So this is possible for you, Anna. It's totally possible for you. And I think the other thing I want to say about this question is that what's most important is not always 30 or 40 or 50 things. It's usually just a handful, like between 1 and 3, right? And to know what those are crystal clear so that when other opportunities come up or your mind even tries to take you to another place or you happen to be scrolling on social media and you see something like, oh, I should want that too, or I should be going for that goal, that you have the clarity and the structure and the wisdom to say, oh, that's beautiful for that person, but not for me right now, because I'm very clear on what matters most at this stage and season of my life. And I want to give you a little extra insight. This is actually from a Time Genius student named Dr. Jessica Tichnell. And she says, I'm back in the driver's seat because I have fewer distractions and a daily plan with focus blocks. I'm getting things done with far less effort. I start my mornings with a peaceful routine and the right mindset. And most importantly, this is for you, Anna, I'm crystal clear on my one most important project, and I'm making serious progress while also enjoying quality family time and self-care. Before Time Genius, I didn't think any of this was possible. The impact on my relationships has been almost miraculous. I've created healthy boundaries and enjoyed more quality time with my family and friends because my priorities are clear, right? Ding, ding, ding. My priorities are clear, and I have full control over how I spend my time. My kids are thrilled to have their mom back, and my husband and I have regular date nights and our next 2 vacations scheduled. She writes a lot more here, but I'm going to scroll down to this part. The fun sheets open the creative floodgates, and I'm diving deeper into the project I've been thinking about for years. I'm dreaming bigger because I have space in my schedule and my mind. I haven't felt this free and hopeful and engaged in years. If I hadn't taken Time Genius, sure, the financial cost would have been high, but I shudder to think about how much it would have cost me with my family and my health. This experience has been so powerful for me. My friends have all asked what I've been doing. I've convinced at least a half dozen friends to take the program. Thank you, because they can literally see the difference it's made for me. I'm beyond grateful for this course. It's the best gift I've given myself in years. So Anna, I say this because if Dr. Jessica could have this kind of transformation, I know that you can have this kind of transformation by giving yourself the gift of the time and space to get clear on what matters most to you, not for the rest of your life, just for this stage and season. And that may be 3 months, it might be 6 months, it might be 2 years. That's, you get to decide. And we kind of take you by the hand and walk you through how to do this for yourself so that you have that clarity, so that you don't feel so scattered, so that you set up your life every single day so that you're focused on what really matters most to you. And then once you've done your work and you've done your tasks, you can close the computer and feel a sense of peace and open-heartedness. You can be with your family and not feel like inside you're being tugged in all these different directions, like you should be doing this other work because, you know, you should be reaching bigger goals. All of that falls away. And what's left is the real you, the joyful you, the enthusiastic you, the one that's always been there. But there's just a lot of clutter on the mind right now that's getting in the way. So with that, I want to ask Team Forleo if we have any live questions that want to come on, because you guys know how much I love some live Q&A and some live coaching. And we'll see. Oh, I do see there might be a viewer coming on. Tell us your name, tell us where you're zooming in from, and your question, and I'll be happy to see if I can work with you. Hi. I can't hear you. Oh, there we go. Now I can hear you.
Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Hi, Marie. I'm
Hi.
Stacy. I live in Winchester, Virginia.
And who's this lovely human?
Hi, this is my sweet miracle baby, Honora.
Hi, Honora.
I cannot believe that I'm getting to ask you this question live. This is so exciting. So I just want to, first of all, thank you so much. I'm going to start crying because you have given me more than you will ever know, just in terms of encouragement and everything that you have, all of your wisdom and just getting started. I was a mom of 2 children when I started watching your materials, and you have just made such a difference. I've been able to launch my website and my podcasting and my speaking and writing. And yes, I did. And I found a lot of success in 2020. I hosted while I had 2 little children, I hosted 2 online conferences, and I wrote my first course, and I was serving, my conferences combined served over 20,000 people around the world, which was amazing.
Stacy, that's fantastic. Congratulations.
And thank you for everything you did to get me there, because I would not have been able to do that otherwise. But then 2021 hit, and my sweet little girl here was born prematurely. So she's my 3rd, and she went through 126 days in the NICU. Wow. She almost died. You would not know to look at her now, but she's actually hooked up to a feeding tube right now. So she's our little special needs miracle. She went through 4 surgeries, and then 5 actually, 3 of which were major. And then we came home last May. So we've been home about 8 months now. And there's so much healing that needs to happen for me through the trauma.
Yes.
For a while, I just kind of was like, lights are on, but nobody home. Now, with the 1-year anniversary of her birth and the snow coming down reminds me of all the time that she was in the NICU, all of that is hitting me. And because the work that I do, as like you, is it's very personal to my life. So I can't produce something unless I'm really in it. So I just I feel like my brain was hit by a truck. Yeah. And I just feel like this trauma healing work it's so important, and it's happening. I see it happening, but my productivity, my commitment to people, if I have a sponsor for my podcast, I have to be able to do some production of what I love. I love what I do, but I also have to be accountable to certain people. And so how do you navigate kind of like healing productivity while healing from trauma?
Yeah, great question.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So first of all, it's 100% possible. And I'll tell you things that you probably know instinctually, but I find it sometimes helpful for people to echo things that my soul might be telling me, just because it's affirmation and confirmation of being on the right path. So if I were you, my love, I would take a look at all of the things that are kind of on your commitment table in terms of your professional life, things around your podcast, and really have a good, heartfelt, open heart, open mind, think about them and see if there's anything that you can reduce. It may not be forever, but it may just need to come off the list for now. So one of the things we talk about very deeply in Time Genius, which I hope you're going to join us for, is the notion that in times in our lives, we're what I call in the trenches. In the trenches means that we're in a period where there is a request from our life to put intense focus on either our physical healing, our mental healing, our emotional healing, another human being in our life that really needs our love and attention. There might be something that happened in the external world, a natural event, right? That kind of takes your plans and shifts a little bit and say, hey, we need some more attention right now. And when we're in the trenches, I find, and this has been true in my own life, it's really important for me not to be normal Marie, the superhuman version of wanting to do all the things at a level, 100, and also be in the trenches. Those two things, not possible, not wise. So it's about going, hey, I'm in the trenches right now. My life is calling me. My life is asking me. My soul is asking me. The universe is asking me to direct my attention here. I'm not going to be so arrogant to push against with my ego's idea of all the things I should accomplish. I'm going to stay focused on keeping this thing as healthy and whole and connected as possible, which often means I may need more sleep. I may need more support in terms of whether there's a particular therapist, there's a particular work that I'm exploring, that I'm getting into. It could be something around a healing modality. It could be, for me right now, it's a lot of meditation, which I'm finding to be almost like a clearing of the cache. Yeah. Mentally and emotionally. It may be around taking a little bit more time to just be and make sure that I have white space in my calendar for naps, crying, being with my friends, feeling, and not producing anything. So I really want to encourage you, Stacey, to honor what you're feeling and to know that your body has so much wisdom, everything that it needs to heal and to get back to a place of homeostasis, to get back to a place of wholeness. But it does require time, attention, and presence. And that also requires you to kind of pull back a little bit on some of the production. Doesn't mean everything, and for some of us, there may be times where we're like, boop, for me, when I had my hysterectomy, I needed to push the pause button for like 6 to 8 weeks. I was like, nope, guys, I'm out, because that's what required, right? So that's what I would say to you, is really to have a good open-hearted look at that list. Use your intuition to say, what can come off? What, for this little period of time, do I want to press pause on? What do I need to make some phone calls about? Like, hey, my word and my integrity is so important to me. And right now, I've got to make some space for my daughter, my healing. I'm going to get back to you and touch base back with you in 3 months or 6 months. And you can create that space for yourself. And I think one of the blessings of this time, Stacey, is that virtually everyone around the world right now has so much more compassion and empathy for each other, because we can see how much people are going through. And we've seen so many instances, whether it's COVID related or something else, right, of people, wow, in the trenches. And I think having those really heartfelt, clear, transparent communications, not from a place of poor me, but like, hey, I've just recognized this. I need to kind of make some adjustments here. I really respect you and respect your time. And here's how I want to move ahead. Most folks are going to understand that, and you're going to create that freedom and that space that you need to heal. Because I'm sure, as you know from the work you've been doing, trauma can exist in the body, and it requires care and attention for healing. And it just doesn't happen necessarily on a particular schedule. We need to create the space for it. And so I think you doing that will not only continue to provide the space that you need for yourself as a soul, but it will enrich the work that you're doing in the world when it is time to dip back into those aspects of it.
Yes. Thank you so much. That gives me a million ideas. And I think being a type A perfectionist and someone who just loves producing, I loved getting grades in school because I could
Yep.
get good grades. And so that just gives me a lot of ideas, or a lot of affirmation that it's okay to disappoint the person that I think I need to be in order to be who I actually need to be at this.
Yeah. And I will tell you, this is just my intuition talking. You don't have to say it's for you, or it may or may not resonate.
Mhm.
The person oftentimes who we think we need to be, that person was actually created in a moment of trauma at a very long time ago.
Wow. Oh, that's a lot to think about.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that idealized version of someone who produces at all cost and shows up at this level at all like that can often come from a place that was not perfectly whole to begin with.
That's a lot to contemplate. Yes. Yes. I'm a former Broadway touring actress as well, so the need to show up and be professional is very deeply ingrained in me.
Yes.
So
And
go on.
I also want to say to you, Stacey, though, what I'm suggesting is a more expanded version of that is actually loving towards you and the other person and not punishing towards you.
Yes. Yes.
Showing up as a professional includes communicating when a situation has shifted.
Yes.
Right. And that there's new information or that there's a new situation to include into the context. And sometimes one of the most professional things you can do is be able to say, hey, something shifted. I really respect you. Here's where I'm going to need to make some adjustments. How can we take care of you as well? And so oftentimes, I've often seen this for myself. We can also in our minds make up that someone's going to be upset with us or super disappointed. And it winds up turning out to be either a relief for them or they're like, oh, this is great. No problem. There's a lot of flexibility. We can go this way or that way. Sounds awesome. Do what you need to do. We're here. I've seen that in my own life happen more times than not.
That's so true. Yeah. Cause it's not like nobody ever says yes to being on my podcast and then quits and for a good reason. And I'm not like, oh, how dare you,
Correct. That's
like,
right.
You got other things going on. That's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
yes.
so true. Thank
Give
you.
yourself that same grace. Absolutely. And just know you're not to readjust the priorities a little bit for a bit of time to take care of something is a demonstration of wisdom, not of weakness.
Yes. Yes. That is so true. See, you see?
Yes. I am sending you both the biggest hug through the screen. Thank you so much for this great question. I'm sending you both so much love and so much strength.
Thank you. You made my day.
Yeah. And good luck as you continue on your journey, and check out Chime Genius. And if it looks good for you, come join us. You'll love it.
Well, thank you so much, Marie. You are
Thanks,
the best.
Stacey. Thank you. All right. Team Forleo. I think let's see if we've got one more live viewer. And if not, I'll go right to my next pre-submitted question because I really do. Yes. Oh, great. Okay, good. Understood. All right. So I'm actually going to go over to Cheryl's question. This one's a pre-submitted one. So Cheryl says, hey, Marie, I'm 42, a wife and a mother of a 1.5-year-old and a 6-year-old, and now 3 months pregnant. I've been working on my butt off on building my business over the last 5 years and struggle with work-life balance. I feel like I'm now experiencing burnout and can't seem to be productive or anywhere near it. How do I be kind enough to myself to recover if it's burnout and not feel so lazy or like I'm letting my husband and my children and my team down? My goodness. So I got to tell you, Cheryl, I think that this is probably one of the main reasons that I wanted to create Time Genius, to be honest with you, because I saw in myself, I saw in so many of my colleagues, I saw in so many of our incredible members of our community and our audience that people were just driving themselves into the ground. And, we had surveyed our audience. I think we had over like 7,000 responses in just a few days. And I read every single one of them. And you are not alone. You are so not alone. I think it's been years really since we've heard this steady drumbeat in our culture that if you're not hustling 24/7, that you don't want it bad enough. That if you're not working for your dreams from the moment you wake up in the morning until the moment you hit your pillow, your head hits the pillow at night, that you must not be ambitious enough, or you don't have big enough dreams, or you don't want world domination. And I think it's been this real sickness in our culture. There's just glorification of overwork. Uh, and it's dangerous. I mean, I'm not just saying that, and that's not hyperbolic. 90% of all disease is either caused by or intensified by stress. That's just a fact. And I was seeing it in myself. And I was like, what is going on? I don't remember ever feeling this way. And for me, I have this great perspective because I remember starting my business way back in the year like 1999, 2000. This was like well before cell phones existed. This was well before social media existed or any tool or format like this. And I was like, my gosh, I was running a coaching practice. I was like choreographing and teaching fitness classes and dance classes around New York City. I was also bartending and waiting tables. Like, how did I get so much done? It was like, oh, well, because there wasn't this constant pressure to create content 24/7 out of every orifice and to engage with people 24/7 nonstop, again, 365 days a year. And so I just want to let you know that you are not the only one that struggles with work-life balance. And for me, I see this as this complete paradigm of the world that I call time stress, which is really toxic. It's this world where you don't feel like you ever have enough time. This world where there's constant interruptions and dings and pings and texts and emails, and you're constantly having to check your WhatsApp or your Instagram or your TikTok or this, that, and the other thing. And you never feel like, no matter how hard you work, no matter how much time you put in, it's just never enough. So the one thing is, I want you to realize that you don't have to keep living that way, that there's this entirely other paradigm. It's a paradigm that I call being a time genius, where you recognize that you always have time for what's most important. And you also recognize that pushing yourself this hard, that working anywhere between 8, 10, 12 hours a day is not only dangerous, it's dysfunctional. There's diminishing returns. You're not actually being that effective. And most people, when they're sitting down to quote unquote work, they're not even really working in a focused and effective manner. They're like flittering from thing to thing. They don't know which they should focus on first. There's not really a plan. There's not deadlines. They allow interruptions and distractions, and it's just a whole shit show. So I want you to first recognize, the first step in being kind to yourself is to recognize that you haven't done it wrong. You've just fallen victim to, like many of us have, the world of time stress. But I want you to be kind to yourself and recognize that that's not the only possibility out there, that it is possible to run a business and to have a family and to have time for yourself on a daily basis. It's going to look very different than what everyone else is doing, because everyone else is running around like a friggin' chicken with their head cut off. But there is this whole other way to be that involves you putting yourself first, and that's not selfish. It involves you taking care of your soul's needs and your body's needs, and what you feel is going to bring the most health and peace and creativity and joy to your life. And again, it's going to look completely different. But I think recovering from burnout is going to require you not just to change what you do on a day-to-day basis, but it's going to require you changing your mind and your heart. It's going to require you stepping into a whole new paradigm, and you're not letting anyone else down. I can tell you, I've seen people in my life in pain, and I know that they've seen me in pain, and I'm not letting them down. I'm actually scaring the hell out of them because they think I'm going to put myself in a hospital if I keep going that way. I guarantee that your team and your kids and your family and your husband, they want you healthy and happy. They want nothing more than to see you thriving. And you've got to be able to decide what matters to you first. And you have to put your own self-care first. I know that that might sound like it's impossible, but I promise you it's not. And it doesn't have to take 5 hours a day. It can just start in these little focused chunks. You would be shocked at how just 20 minutes, 30 minutes first thing in your day, focusing on you and taking care of your own needs, is going to have this spillover effect on every other area of your life. again, we can walk you through all of this in Time Genius, but I want you to listen to what Nadia said, because she was actually someone in a position like yours when she first started, a few short weeks ago, not weeks, it was probably months at this point, but, she was listening to me talk about Time Genius in a video just like this. And she decided to click that button at jointimegenius.com/enroll, and her life is completely different. So let me read you what she said. She said, before Time Genius, I was stuck in a place of time stress and had no idea how to get out. As a mother and entrepreneur with a full-time job, I always felt like there weren't enough hours in the day. I'm also the sole breadwinner in my family, and I felt like I was doing everything but had no control over my life. I was having regular breakdowns and constantly overstimulated. Sound familiar? My brain used to feel like it had a constant ongoing chatter that didn't allow me to focus. Now, I feel like the background noise is gone and I have so much clarity. I'm journaling every day. I'm sleeping 8 hours a night. I'm able to relax without guilt. I thought this program would help me devote more time to my business and projects. I never anticipated it would allow me to spend more meaningful time with my daughter and husband. I feel like a new person. This program has changed my life in so many ways. Thank you for showing me how to add hours to my days, my weeks, my months, and my years, and my life. Thank you, Nadia. So I say that and I share these because, again, you might look at me and say, oh, well, she's got this, that, or the other thing, or she doesn't understand, blah, blah, blah. It's like, this is not about me. We've got 600 pages of everyday folks from all different walks of life, from all different stages of life, who have figured out that the world of time stress is toxic. It's destructive. It's unsustainable. You cannot keep living that way. And there's this whole other way to be. And it involves you taking charge of changing you from the inside out. And I will tell you this, it happens fast. Like, I've been working for over 2 decades, coaching and working with people. And I often will tell them, like, hey, this is going to take time. Building a business takes time. There's other things to build up a particular skill set. This takes time. All of that is still very true. With this particular experience, if you give me 2 hours a day for 5 days in a row, I guarantee you're coming out the other side a completely different person. And if you keep up the skills and the habits and the practices that I show you in these 5 days, you're looking at a completely different life. So I just want you to ask yourself right now, if you could just carve out 1 to 2 hours a day for 5 days for a completely new experience of life, would you do that? Hands down, for me, the answer, yes, every day of the week. I've done this. I've been living this for a while. So I'm completely clear and confident that it works. But for you, if you want to leave that world behind, please do come join us. So I hope that you enjoyed this particular live MarieTV. This was really, really fun. I loved it. I'm excited for what's to come. I hope that you'll join us. And if you're interested, you can come to jointimegenius.com/enroll. The registration closes at 7 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, which is only a few days away. And we don't know when we're opening this program again. So if this is up for you, come join us. If not, that's cool too. I just want to let you know how much I appreciate you for coming to watch live, how much I appreciate you for being in our audience. And you do have the power in you. You do not have to exist in a world of burnout and constant stress and constant work and constant exhaustion. It's an old model. It's an outdated model. It is not where the world is going. It is time for a new paradigm. So until next time, stay on your game and keep going for your big dreams, because the world really does need that very special gift that only you have. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time on MarieTV.